July 24th and back for the third time today. We've got a special show, and I am pleased to welcome back a guest who hasn't been with us in a while, Mr. Joe Napoli. Joe,
Hey, Jason.
how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you again, Joe. I know you've been
Likewise.
dealing with a lot. You're busy, of course, with your business. You're an executive recruiter there, and of course you've got your wife and your family, and this has been a really difficult incident for you. You know, Joe, we've got many viewers who have joined Crowdsource the Truth recently. We're up to about 63,000 subscribers on Crowdsource the Truth. So a lot of people might not realize that Joe and his wife and several of their friends were present there at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, and you really have been dealing essentially with a PTSD situation. Isn't that right, Joe?
Yeah, I would say so. I've learned a lot about PTSD as a result of the concert, and I've experienced even till now. I mean, not as many as I did, soon after the shooting, but I still have the nightmares and the unwanted stress, and sometimes that stress is unexplainable, but sometimes it is, and so I go back and forth with some of the traits of that. Sure.
I'm glad to see you, Joe. You know, it's funny. A lot of people still don't fully get the Crowdsource the Truth model. You and I met. You were watching YouTube, and I came into your feed there from working with George and just some of the other videos. The way that people encounter each other on YouTube, and common interests bring us together. And you were really, I believe, the first to come from the crowd to the show. And of course, you've done a tremendous amount of research. And then the night of the shooting, you called me, and this is what led to my investigating of the Las Vegas shooting. If I didn't know you and you didn't call me, I'm not sure that I would have covered this story, because I'm not about covering every single story. What we're doing here is, as people bring information to me, it's a very organic process of it getting integrated into the show. And I can't be a New York Times or a CNN. I don't have a staff here fact-checking everything and running everything down. We've created a venue where people can bring their information, and the viewers and the members of the Crowdsource community at large can challenge that information and augment that information and help us all work together as a collective to find the truth. That's what we're trying to do, and it's been very effective. I've got to thank you for participating in that, Joe. And
well, thank you for having me, Jason. I got to congratulate you as well. I mean, it's been a few months since I've been on. I think the last time I was on was when I was up in Carmel, first week of May.
Yep.
But since then, I mean, you've always done well with this, but in just the last 3 months, I mean, congratulations. And I'm just honored to be here. And you were the second person I think I called October 1st. I called my daughter under the bleachers. Mm-hmm. And then I think about 5 a.m. or so, 5:30, I called you when we finally got to a hotel room. So, and we've been doing this, I think, investigation, Vegas specifically, ever since.
Yeah, and it's been real valuable, I think, for a lot of people, the work that you and I have done together, Joe. Some of the videos have gotten a tremendous number of views. We went, of course, to the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay and discovered information that I think has been useful to the investigation at large. We got images of the doorway. We learned that the security guard basically laughed when we asked him if he knew Jesus Campos. So again, we're doing this to compensate for the fact that corporate-owned, mega million-dollar news resources are driven by corporations like MGM Grand, and therefore they're just simply incapable of bringing news that might be embarrassing to a company like that. Sure. When Laura Loomer and I went to the Las Vegas Metro PD press conference, there were members of the press who actually approached Laura and told her that they really admire what she's doing. that they specifically cannot do it because their biggest advertisers are MGM. So again, that's what Crowdsource the Truth is all about, is trying to create a new model for getting to this information and getting it out to the public at large. And in that spirit, Joe, we've got a new member of the Crowdsource community joining us tonight. And this is someone who initially might not have been so pleased with me or my reporting, but I'm happy to announce he has an open mind, and it's not about being pleased with me or liking me, it's about contributing to the flow of information. And we've got with us Mr. Burgandy. How are you, sir?
I am very well, thank you, Mr. Goodman. I want to tell you I do appreciate you allowing me to come on, and yes, I would like to take this time to apologize to you. I was pretty strong in a few comments back in the Hoover Morphonius debate when that was going on, but I really didn't know you at the time, and I'd have to say a lot of his videos bring out the worst in me, and I wasn't ugly to you, but I was stern in those comments, and I've since come to watch a lot of your stuff, and well, you've changed my mind, and everything's good, and like I say, I can't say enough how much I thank you for having me on. And I would like to say, Joe, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. I've got several close friends that are survivors, and I know what they struggle with every day, and I can only imagine how you and your wife and all your friends that were there, how it's affecting you, and I hate that you have to go through it, buddy. I wish you the best with it.
Appreciate the kind words, Mr. Burgandy. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's better. It gets better every day. And like I said earlier, there are days where there are bad days, but there are a lot of good days. And I fully believe that it's just going to continue to get better and better. So
good. I hope so.
Thank you for the kind words.
And hopefully, Joe, part of the goal here is for you to be able to, learn from the Crowdsource community members that come forward, share your experiences. We've witnessed a bit of a catharsis for you that hopefully has been therapeutic in your process of coming through this, and hopefully that will continue today. We're going to get into some of the research that Mr. Burgandy has done, and specifically with the 911 calls. So for people who aren't following Mr. Burgandy, he's on YouTube, and you can find his channel at Mr. Burgandy. Just search YouTube for Mr. Burgandy. And why don't you give us a little background of what got you started here on YouTube? You haven't been a YouTube content creator for a long time, right? You've basically
I have not. No, this event started my YouTube career. Actually a little bit after it, and notice the name spelling's a little different. It's G-A-N, not G-U-N.
Yeah,
but
I did notice that.
I wasn't sure about copyrights and all that, because to explain the name, when I first came onto YouTube to really investigate this event, I thought of the most ridiculous name I could come up with to make my name. I never planned on making videos, and that's what I chose. It stuck, and here I am later with 1,800 subscribers that know me as Mr. Burgandy, and it's kind of hard to change now. But that being what it is. But no, I had no experience with YouTube prior to the Las Vegas shooting. I rarely was on it. I made one video in my life prior to that, a recruiting video for my son to play college baseball. And so I knew how to make videos.
Well, don't give us too much personal information, because there's going to be people out there. Now, you raised an important point, that you're using a pseudonym because you want to avoid the inevitable persecution of putting yourself out there on these controversial topics. This is something that people watching Crowdsource the Truth are obviously fully aware. I'm being sued by Robert David Steele and now David Swigert as well. And Joe, should we talk about, because a lot of people sent me comments and emails saying, where's Joe Napoli, where's Joe Napoli? Joe Napoli has a life with a business and a wife and a family, and he's got a lot to tend to. And when people come at you, Joe, and they question your integrity and they question your honesty, that is a lot to deal with from an emotional standpoint, isn't it?
It is. It is. It was a lot to deal with, and it mounted, and as even as much as I tried to stay away from, I guess, just to put it honestly, social media, every time I went on social media, whether it be Twitter or Facebook, YouTube, especially, as I talked to you much about, Jason, in the past, it just mounted and mounted and got worse. And I needed to just, take a step back. I felt guilty because I allowed a lot of this to bother me. And I think this is what a lot of, if not all of the trolls want to accomplish, is they want it to bother you so much so that you do leave or you do back off. No, in answer to your question, Jason, you're right. It was difficult. It was difficult to handle, and it kept going and increasing. And the more people, just kept coming forward. And I know your address, I know your name, I know your wife's name. I just needed to take a step back. So.
Right. I mean, these are direct threats, Joe, and of course, people watching at home might think, these are just immature, high school bully level tactics. But I keep talking about this because I think it's very important for people to understand. This is an organized, coordinated campaign that is masquerading as immature tactics, and it does that for a number of reasons. They want us to seem immature for engaging with them, and they also can hide behind that. If it was known by everyone that this was a dangerous, coordinated campaign to affect you psychologically, to get under your skin, so that when you come home from work, you're irritated by some comment made by a bunch of trolls, backed up by a bunch of trolls. Perhaps that bubbles over into your personal life with a client, with a loved one, and then you've got a real tangible situation on your hands. And I fully respect and appreciate your need to step away anytime that you feel the need to do that. Anyone who comes on the show is certainly welcome to do that. And I think you're showing a lot of courage, Joe, letting these people know that they cannot stop us in this way. And it's gone beyond just simple trolling. There are, as I said, I'm facing real federal lawsuits, and they're trying to convince other people that there's some danger to them. We've seen Robert David Steele put out this list, like this Nazi-esque list of people who he thinks I am somehow controlling or guiding. He considers it some sort of army or network. But, we were just speaking to Larry Nichols earlier, and Larry, of course, told us about the Clinton-esque tactic of employing what he called transference and misdirection. And that transference, of course, is blaming your adversary for exactly what you are doing. And I do believe that Robert David Steele is doing exactly that by publishing a list of individuals. By no means am I coordinating a network of people beyond putting out a show and having people come and watch it. What they choose to do in response to what I say is purely up to them. On direct contrast to that, we've shown videos which now have been taken down from YouTube due to malicious strikes, where we have recordings of some of the individuals I'm talking about basically organizing the structure of their force, their cyber harassment, cyber terrorism force. And this is an insidious way to get people like you. Let's not understate the fact, Joe, that you are a first-hand witness to a very serious terrorist event, a historic event in United States history, and people intimidating you to try to prevent you from coming forward, to try to prevent you from speaking to news outlets or law enforcement outlets, or to shine a light on what, let's face it, is essentially a cover-up, where the FBI and the Las Vegas Metro PD have been continually changing the story and hiding facts from us. So we're going to keep talking about how these malicious trolls and this network of individuals operate until they're no longer able to operate, because we're going to take that power away from them. They will not be able to fool people any longer. And I do want to remind people that if they aren't following Joe Napoli on Twitter, they can do that. You can find Joe on Twitter at JoeNapoli7. And Joe is, of course, available if you are an executive looking for a position. Joe is an executive recruiter. He deals with high-tech placement, and Joe is a straight shooter and a good guy to go to. Oh, the other thing is, you know, you've been very busy with your business, of course, so Joe is not a full-time YouTuber like myself, and he's got to balance the YouTubing with all the other things in life.
I sure do miss it, though, I'll tell you that. It's so good to be back.
So with that being said, let's start looking into some of Mr. Burgandy's analysis of the 911 calls. Mr. Burgandy, you've put together a video that I think we're going to play for people here. And why don't you talk about it while it runs, and
Sure.
people can go check out the full video if they like.
Well, sure. I've always questioned, you know, what all the other reports that night of shooting well after, you know, the main shooting ended. I actually have a close personal friend that was in Planet Hollywood that night, and he told me that, you know, a little after 11, he heard gunshots and smelled gun smoke that evening when the first crowd started coming into the Planet Hollywood. And, you know, Planet Hollywood.
What time, Mr. Burgandy? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a little after 11 o'clock is when he was playing three-card poker, and people started coming in the hotel screaming of an active shooter from the concert. He heard gunshots at that point and smelled gun smoke at that point. Planet Hollywood's 1.7 miles away, long way away. So, and this guy's an avid hunter. He knows what gun smoke smells like. I just kind of filed that back. You know, your Gio Rios is right there. Yep. He's claiming the same thing. Aurora Monroe's in there. There she is. She's claiming the same thing. And Renee Downs is claiming the same thing. So I knew we had a few people really dead set that something was going on, but I wanted to wait till data came out. I had to quantify what we were hearing. When they started releasing the 911 calls, the first thing I noticed was the odd way they released them. They released the first batch in 518 calls. They were just all over the place as far as what time the calls came in. Well, I have a video prior to this one where I noticed there was no calls between 11:15 and 11:30 in that release, when there was at least 80 in every other 15-minute time section. So that caught my eyes. Like, why are they not releasing any in this time frame? Well, the following week, you know, they release every Wednesday now. The following week, Lombardo was reelected on like Monday or Tuesday. Then the Wednesday came with the new release, and they released it a whole nother 500 set of calls, and that filled in the gaps. Still all over the place of how they listed them out. So what I did is I listened to them all, I time-stamped them, I wrote a description of what they were, and started doing statistics and to see how many people were claiming what they heard. And this video points that out. So, you know, we can watch some of the stats that are about to come by. This is a good example how they're blaming it on panic right here. You know, this gentleman is not panicking.
Sunday, October 1, 2017. 23:01 and 18 seconds.
911 emergency, Harris 16076. Do you need police, fire, or medical?
So with the active shooter, we can hear gunshots over by Desert Sage.
Over where?
By Desert Sage.
Okay, what's the address?
What's the address? Not sure. We kind of hopped in a back patio of a house, and there's people walking around, and we can hear shots fired.
Okay, I need to know where you are. You said Desert Sage?
Desert Sage Hotel, right behind Hooters.
Desert Shade?
Desert Shade? Sage.
Okay, hold on one second. I don't show, let's see, a Desert Sage Hotel. You're behind Hooters?
It's not a hotel, it's a timeshare.
Okay.
But we can hear shots being fired and people yelling.
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm just trying to figure out where you are. Are you guys in a safe place?
We're locked in a closet.
Can you tell where the shots are coming from?
Out in the parking lot towards the gas station right behind you.
So my point for pointing that call out was the LVMPD will have you believe that all of these reports and 911 calls about what's going on of an active shooter was all due to panic radiating from the venue up the strip. And I get that. There's a fair amount of that happening. This call wasn't one of those. This guy, as you heard, was just as calm. Sounded like he's about to fall asleep in that closet. He was not panicking. He knows what he heard. And when you started counting the calls of who was calling to report shots, an active shooter, and how many people actually claimed to have heard the shots, I was blown away by the percentages. And that's what we're about to get into right here. This breaks it down in 15-minute increments of how many total calls, how many claims an active shooter, how many heard shots. Like, that's when it just started. This is when it picked up. You can see 29 people claim to have heard shots in those calls. Another 26 claim to have heard shots. And then another 13 in the last 15-minute section. There's more after 12 o'clock, too. I just didn't highlight any more than that 1 hour. So these are your totals from all those added together. So 41% of all 911 calls between 11 and 12 were calling about an active shooter or panic. And of those 257 callers, 77 of them claimed to have had or heard the shots, wherever they were, 30%. And dealing with raw numbers like I do every day, that's a lot to ignore. I feel it's a lot to ignore, and I can't ignore it. I just can't ignore it. So,
Mr. Burgandy, can I just a quick question?
Sure.
Why the 15-minute increments?
I just broke it down first just to see, because I originally started sorting them and realized I was missing a 15-minute increment section in the first release.
Okay.
So I already had them broken down into 15-minute increments already,
Okay.
so I just extended the video a little. But yeah, ultimately it's about those totals that just scrolled by. So, 41% of all calls that came in that hour were about an active shooter or panic because of an active shooter. And 30% of them, of those calls, heard the shots. You can't tell me that 77 people didn't hear something and called 911. I find that really hard to believe. It's just not probable.
We were at the Tropicana from approximately 10:25, 10:30. First shots were 22:05, right? Is that
Correct.
10:05?
Yes.
We got to the Tropicana maybe 10:25, 10:30. So a half hour after being there and up until 12 a.m., 41% of the 911 calls said they heard gunshots.
No, they were calling to report chaos, panic, or of an active shooter at their location.
Or an active shooter. Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily heard the calls, but were calling because people were freaking out where they were. And these were all different casinos up and down the strip. And the interesting thing about those calls, too, and I think this is the reason they released them like they did, because once you resorted them by time and put them all in order, when the first New York call came in, boom, 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 10 more came in. When the first Planet Hollywood came in, boom, 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 boom. They were clustered together by the casino that they originated from. But the way they released them, they were all mixed up hodgepodge. You had to resort them, which took hours to do. I mean, just the 626 calls between 11 and 12 was 20 plus hours of listening. So it took a whole lot to do it. I'm fairly confident not a whole lot of people have actually done that. And it took me forever.
That's good insight.
Yeah.
It really it paints a picture, and it's stats and probabilities, for me. And I think it really tells you a better idea.
I know being at the Tropicana soon after we got there, I would say within the hour, there was a guy who thought he heard gunshots, and that's when everyone started running down that tunnel. It's the same tunnel that Jason and I visited upon entering the service entrance of that second tower of the Tropicana, and that was maybe 11:30, 11:45.
Right. Which and there is so much from this event that happened in that hour time frame. Everything happened in that hour time frame. There's a ton of odd things, and we can cover that in a little bit. But just that 1 hour sure was a whole lot going on. I mean, to be, which you would expect a fair amount, but a lot of things happened in that hour. And it's interesting. I find it interesting.
Look at that.
Of course, Joe, you and I have been back to the site. We walked in your footsteps, and what we're hearing from Mr. Burgandy's statistics related to the 911 calls, this has been echoed in your personal experience as a witness. We've heard from Stephanie the same thing. People heard shooters all over the strip, yet the FBI and the Las Vegas Metro PD would have us believe that one man with, what was the number, Joe? 27, 23, some ridiculously 23 guns.
Right.
So one guy.
And to add to what Joe said, he was in the Tropicana that night, and he heard the thing. There's actually a 911 call where a dispatcher is calling another dispatcher at 11:22 saying that medics on the scene at the Tropicana were reporting coming under fire. So
Joe saw empty shell casings outside the Tropicana.
Right on the other side of that intersection. Jason, you remember that intersection? That wasn't a very common intersection, was it? It was a pretty odd intersection. I think we went to cross a couple of times. I think we almost got hit.
Yeah. What's the name of that street over there, Joe? It's
that's
pretty
Reno
unique.
and Giles.
Right, Giles. Reno and Giles.
That's Reno and Giles. And it was very fitting. That cross on top of the church was one of the first things we saw when we exited. We had just come from our right side there. That's where we exited the back of the venue. And then when we crossed the street into that parking lot area is where we saw the beer cups and the drink cups and the shell casings spread out. I remember looking down, running past as if it was yesterday.
Joe, may I ask you something about that too, please?
Sure.
To kind of clarify for me.
And look where the Mandalay Bay is. Just sorry to cut you off there.
Well, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. Well, it's not close though.
It's not close, no, but it's. It's. Well, when you saw the shells, I know you said in one of Jason's other videos they were kind of scattered about. They weren't all in like a pile.
Right.
What made you see them, and roughly how many do you think they were? I mean,
I probably saw minimum a dozen or more. What made me see them was the amount of, actually, if it wasn't for the amount of trash that was on the ground, I probably wouldn't have made contact with the asphalt. I would have been eyes forward like I was prior to that.
Watching your speed.
I didn't do much of looking down while running, although, we did a little bit of that going around and past, unfortunately, people who had lost their life on the way out of the venue. But when you're running fast and you're trying to get to cover during chaos and mayhem, etc., you're not really looking down. I made eye contact with the asphalt because of the amount of trash on the ground.
Right. So it was asphalt, not gravel, too, right?
It was parking lot. So would you call that? That's
okay.
That's
gotcha.
asphalt. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Good.
So.
Just a little personal note I was wondering about.
No worries.
Roughly what time was that again? That was on your way to the Tropicana as you were leaving the venue for the first time, so like 10:30, something around through there?
Yeah, I'm going to say we got inside that service entrance about 10:25, 10:30. It seemed like it was longer than that from where we were standing to where we entered. But I can't imagine it being more than 30 minutes between the when we popped up from being on the ground.
Right. Well, Gio Rios was actually reporting seeing a guy with a bag right there at that same service entrance.
Was it that service entrance or was it the casino?
It was one of the two there, but it was still in that same general area. So that's where he was seeing that guy. So
he and I communicated a little bit soon after the concert on Instagram, and then that kind of just fell off for whatever reason. But his story is pretty crazy.
But of course,
hiding in a dumpster is just,
right.
Most of this has been totally ignored by the police. I mean, Joe, you're a first-hand witness. You've not spoken to anyone in the Las Vegas Metro PD, anyone in the FBI, correct?
Have not.
Wow.
Have not.
I did not know that.
And certainly, Joe, I mean, you've been one of the more visible witnesses. You and I have done several videos on Crowdsource the Truth, and I would think that the FBI is watching. Certainly people in the coroner's office are watching. They've told us as much. So if they really wanted any information, it would stand to reason that they might contact you. I mean, as I look at this list of videos, Joe, we've got videos with quite a few views here. We got 96,000 views.
Everything that you and I have talked about, everything that you and I have put on video. It wouldn't be different because I'm talking to the FBI or to the LVMPD. It would be the exact same information. I mean, there would be no reason to. So I guess I bring that up because I just don't know why that hasn't occurred yet. But
well, I mean, I can speculate as to why, because it doesn't seem like there's actually been any honest investigation going on. As we've seen in so many other cases with the FBI lately, the top brass are obstructing the investigation. They have suppressed information. They have lied. There was a police report that just came out a few weeks ago that said that there were 2 females in the room with Paddock. We've also heard that...
3, actually.
Sorry, 3, right. Thank you, Mr. Burgandy. You're very well versed in all the facts and details of the Las Vegas October 1st shooting, and that's why I like having you on and having members of the crowdsourced community join us. I don't purport to be an expert on anything necessarily. I'm here to create a platform where people can bring information, share information, vet information, and try to put pressure on these organizations like the FBI. What they want to do is they want to be able to control the media exactly in the way that Fox reporter told Laura Loomer. I didn't make this up. The reporter said, MGM is our biggest advertiser, and I can't report on the stuff that you guys are reporting on because I'll be fired. And so that's the power structure. Somebody's got a job. They've got their mortgage, they've got their family. They're not going to go out on a limb like that. And that's how it works. MGM Grand pays the newspaper or the television station or whatever it is. The reporter is paid by them, and there's that structure of control. What we're trying to do here is create news for the people, by the people, and of the people. And that's what we're doing. It's the only way that we can get to the truth. Now, there's another troubling truth that's bubbling up lately, gentlemen, and that is, this is one of the most despicable things I could imagine, Joe. We've got the MGM Grand actually suing 1,000 victims of the Las Vegas shooting, and the New York Times even says that they're seeking to avoid liability. Now, there's a complex legal aspect to this whereby these guys are utilizing a law that was passed after September 11th, 2001. And they're talking about this legal maneuver is likely to have consequences for other lawsuits over mass casualty attacks based on the federal law passed after September 11th, known as the Support Anti-Terrorism by Fostering Effective Technologies, or the Safety Act for short. I don't know why they want...
That's the old Safety Act, right?
Right. I don't know why the New York Times has a comma there. They have all those editors working for them, and I spotted that right away. It doesn't seem correct to me. But your reaction is, I think, spot on, Joe. They call the Patriot Act, but yet it seems to involve spying on Americans without warrants, invading our privacy, the ability, as Bill Binney has told us, for the NSA and other agencies to record every digital communication everything, every text, every email, every phone call, every video broadcast, all being warehoused by the NSA and can be used against any of us at any moment. That's the Patriot Act. So the Safety Act, which is, supporting anti-terrorism through effective technologies, well, that sounds a lot to me like it might be written by someone who has an interest in selling technology to these hotels. And we know that all the guys who are involved in the TSA, coincidentally, are on the board, not all, of course, but Tom Ridge, was he the guy, the first TSA director? He's on the board of the company that makes those millimeter wave scanning machines that are at every single airport. And what do we know about what that's doing to our bodies? People who travel every week, they tell you it's exposing you to as much radiation as a cell phone, but somehow I don't believe that. So this lawsuit is particularly onerous because it's seeking to avoid any liability and actually proactively sue the people who were victims of this shooting. Now, it doesn't seem like MGM Grand has been an advocate of the victims at all. It took them months to release this ridiculous video of Mr. Paddock, which, for all we know, could have been assembled from a number of different video sources. Paddock, we've heard, visited the hotel frequently. How do we know that him sitting at the poker machine or whatever, that could have been
specifically him, right?
Yeah, it could have been taken at any time. It's not like the MGM Grand came forward and provided extensive video footage. How do we not see exterior footage of the hotel? Or we know that there is copious video documentation of everything happening in the hotel, but yet it's slow to come out. The story is changing all the time. First, we had Joe Lombardo saying that Paddock checked into the hotel, on the 28th, when it was actually the 25th. They knew that he had other people in the room with him. We're not hearing about that. 44-minute dead zone. Mr. Burgandy, what do you have to say about all of these anomalies with the investigation?
Well, gosh, you just said a mouthful, and I could go on for an hour. So I'm going to touch on a couple things you said right there.
Yeah.
One thing you brought up was, saying he checked in on the 28th. There's evidence in the releases that, it's proven in the releases. They say it over the scanner, or actually it's like dispatch audio. It's a weird release they released over the last 2 weeks, where they say he checked in on the 25th. They knew good and well he checked in on the 25th because you hear it on the scanner that night. I cannot point you to it off the top of my head right now, but it's there. They knew it was the 25th. The cameras you speak of on top of the hotel, they released a 5-hour video clip of the eyeball camera up on top of the Mandalay Bay. And it was operated by a camera operator. And that operator did everything but zoom in where the shots were coming from and where they were hitting. It was almost like they were avoiding showing, a lot of the areas that one would think you would look at if you were controlling the camera while it was going on. It's just, there's so many anomalies, like you say. It's just every corner you turn, you run into 10 questions. So
Right. So they haven't exactly been forthcoming with information that would help anybody solve this crime. And there are other anomalous situations and weird reactions from people. A lot of people might recall this video where I went to Battlefield Las Vegas and wanted to ask them, what's their relationship with the Las Vegas Metro PD? We've heard that vehicles from Battlefield Las Vegas were used. They were called into action on the day of the shooting, and obviously there could be a very logical explanation for this. I would have hoped that a marketing person or some sort of public relations person from Battlefield Las Vegas would be prepared to answer the questions of a concerned public. It would be reasonable to presume that a unique facility like this, that's ostensibly a military armory. Are this. The place is loaded with guns.
And what is it for, though, Jason? I didn't mean to cut you off, but what is Battlefield? What is it? Are these
Well,
is it part of the armed services? Is it an extension of that? Or?
It is a shooting range and an entertainment venue for gun enthusiasts, and I am all for that. You can be trained in firearms there, and it's everyone's legal constitutional right to own a gun, and anyone who does own a gun should be well versed in firearms safety, I would hope. And perhaps Battlefield Las Vegas is a great place to go to gain some of that experience and interact with members of the military veterans. But on the flip side, an installation like this is also potentially dangerous if it's in the wrong hands or if it's misused. There is an extensive array of weaponry here, functional tanks, functional armored vehicles, thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition. I mean, this is a mini armory in the middle of the city, and it is privately owned. This is essentially a paramilitary organization if it's mobilized as such. And as a member of the public and someone who was present there in Las Vegas, I was curious to know, what's their relationship with the Las Vegas Metro PD? The first time I was there, I asked them if they knew Stephen Paddock. We had received information from a crowdsourced community member that Stephen Paddock was a customer of Battlefield Las Vegas, and it's certainly his right to be that and their right to serve him. And I would think in the event of a tragic situation like this, they'd be prepared with some sort of statement along the lines of, we can't share the personal information of our clients, but we had no knowledge of Mr. Paddock's activities, or yes, he's been in here, but he wasn't here October 1st. You know, what they've done and how they've reacted, frankly, leaves me with more questions and feeling less confident in their ability to act responsibly. Now, it's also conceivable that in order to have an organization like this in the middle of the city, you need to have some sort of arrangement with the police that in the event of a terrorist attack, the armored vehicles and all the military members of their staff could be called into service or commandeered by the police, but nothing like that was said. I was chased out of there on 2 occasions by gentlemen with open carry firearms on them, which is, quite an intimidating experience. I don't carry a gun, I don't own a gun, and while I support everyone's right to do that, I'm not walking around with a gun or looking to get into gun battles with military veterans. And actually the most aggressive person was this woman who I was speaking to, who basically summoned over the armed guards and kicked my feet and hit me with a paper, a pad of some kind, on my way out of there. She simply could have said that I need to speak to so-and-so, or could have had some kind of prepared statement. They're calling for backup here. Additional guys with guns come out. You see he's got the 9mm handgun. He's grabbing me. He's touching me. This is totally inappropriate for these guys to do any of this stuff. She whacked my camera. She hit me in the face. I'm telling her not to touch me. She's kicking me. I'm in public, and on their website, it actually encourages you to video record at their facility, but yet she's throwing me out. She's being very aggressive, very rude.
She's doing a great job of covering her face, though.
Yeah, I mean, so people should wonder about why they do this.
An interesting note to that topic, Battlefield Vegas called 911 dispatch at 10:33:06 and told them, hey, we have tanks on the way, where Captain so-and-so told us to come. It's right there on the 911 calls. So,
what time?
10:33:06. Battlefield Armor called into dispatch. Said they were on the way with armored vehicles.
10:33:06. These times are very coincidental. I know my friend Quinn Michaels would find them quite interesting. The 06, all this stuff. So, I don't know. I just feel like there are better answers that could be given to some of these, in my view, extremely valid questions. What else do we know about the 911 calls, Mr. Burgandy? You sent me a few that we could play.
I sent you links to, did you get those to work or be ready to play if you wanted to?
I think we could get those to play.
Okay. I sent you 4 different interesting ones that I find more relative and believable. Number 547 on the release is actually the New York security guard that works there. She claims to have heard shots 2 minutes ago. Of course, this is a security guard at the New York. One of the first calls that came in from New York, followed by a whole bunch more. Hers were the first. But number 547 that I sent you is her reporting shots being heard.
Okay, give me just a moment. We'll get 547 up here. And let's try that. Is that playing?
Sunday, October 1, 2017, 23:04 and 43 seconds.
I have no idea. 911 emergency. Dash 12550. Do you need police, fire, or medical?
Hello?
Hi, ma'am. What can I do for you?
Hello?
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Michelle. I am in New York. I'm a security officer. I lost my radio. We've got guests in the back. We heard shots fired.
How long ago?
No more than 2 minutes ago. Sir, where are we at?
Where did you hear the shots coming from?
Okay, we are behind Gallagher's restaurant. I lost my radio, sir. I got stampeded. It was Humanity in the back of our property in the Humanity theater.
Theater? Okay. Okay, is anybody hurt? Anybody with you hurt?
I do not know, sir. I got knocked down and I lost my radio. That's why I'm using my personal cell phone.
How many shots did you hear?
I did not make contact with my boss.
How many shots did you hear, ma'am?
I would say, please step in here, please. Please step in here. I would say 5 or 6. I do not know. I tried to get guests and it just went crazy.
Okay, but you guys are all okay that you have, right?
I do not know, sir. There is probably at least 1,000 people. People, come back here, please. Please come back into the kitchen. I'm on the phone with the police right now. Sir?
So you guys are in the kitchen of Gallagher's restaurant in New York,
Yes,
right?
I'm trying to get the guests as far away from the theater as possible.
Okay.
Keep it moving and be orderly, please. Please don't knock anyone down. Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to direct.
That's okay. It's crazy all over right now. What is your name, ma'am?
Michelle.
You have a...
I am security with New York. Yes, I did.
Which phone number?
Yes, I did. My phone number is...
Okay. Okay, I have everything updated.
Is that my radio? Thank you, it is. I'm security. Sir, I just have my radio back to my desk.
Okay. Yeah, we have a call set up. I'm updating everything in here. We're getting everybody out. As long as you guys are safe there, stay there.
I'm going to try and get everybody back in the kitchen of Gallagher's.
Okay. And if you can lock a door, definitely lock everybody in that you can.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay?
I will.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So that's interesting, and I had the map up. Sorry, Joe?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jason. I'm confused. I don't know. You guys feel that there was a severe lack of urgency?
Well, I think the 911...
It's a lack of urgency through the whole event.
I think the 911 caller, dispatcher, is trained to remain calm. They don't want to further excite the person.
Understood.
The thing that I find strange about it is, look at the distance here. Now, Joe, you and I have walked this many times in Las Vegas. It's pretty far from New York to the Mandalay Bay, and there are a number of buildings in the way. I would imagine if you were standing at the back. Now, I've never been to the Gallagher's restaurant, but this, of course, is, oh, sorry, let me show the map again. We're looking now at the back of the New York hotel, and so I would think that this New York complex itself, as well as we've got, what is this here? This is not Treasure Island, but...
it's Excalibur.
Excalibur, right. We've got a number of hotels that would seem to, baffle the sound. I don't know if someone standing down at the base of the rear of the New York would necessarily discern shots coming out right there. I mean, echoes are possible. I'm not an acoustic engineer. Of course, we've heard Mike Adams, the health ranger, do a very complete acoustical analysis of the shooting, and he determined that there were more than one shooter. There was more than one shooter from his acoustic analysis. This is very interesting, Mr. Burgandy, that we've got someone who is a trained security guard telling us that in her estimate, there's a shooter down there right by New York, right?
At 11:04.
Yeah.
Mr. Burgandy, I remember not too long ago someone sending me a video, and forgive me, I can't remember who it was. I've been sent so many videos since October 1st.
I bet.
But it was specific to this theater, and it was a video taken inside the theater during whatever was going on there, whether it was a play or a concert or what have you, and the interruption and people trying to exit. Now, I don't remember hearing gunshots in the video, but I remember people talking about gunshots in that video. Are you familiar with that?
I can't tell you. I am a little bit, yes. I can tell you with the 911 calls, there's not a single one where you hear shots other than while the initial attack is going on.
Sure.
That is not there for sure.
When she said theater, that instantly reminded me of the video that someone sent me.
Was it New York theater, or the Michael Jackson theater you're thinking about possibly?
Could have been Michael Jackson.
There's a Michael Jackson theater.
You mentioned Michael. Yeah,
there's a popular theater there. They were all caught up in. Someone came and pulled on the door, and everyone freaked out.
Right.
Where is that Michael Jackson theater? Is that
I think
in
that's
the New
in
York
Mandalay Bay, actually, or
Bay.
Delano, or it's one of those.
I think it's Delano. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next call that you've sent, Mr. Burgandy.
So one of the next calls we can go to then, which would be another. It's a quick one, but I highlighted this one because there again, it's going against panic. We just heard one that she's a trained security guard, but she was a little panicked, and I get that. But this gentleman right here, it's call number 653. This guy is on the 62nd floor, I think, of the Aria Hotel.
Sunday, October 1, 2017, 23:19 and 03 seconds.
911 emergency, Salazar 15691. Do you need police, fire, medical?
Yes, hi. I'm staying at the Cosmopolitan. I'm standing on my balcony, and I am in Las Vegas, right across from the Aerie sign. And there is somebody going batshit crazy with a gun on the bridge right across from the Aerie sign.
Do you know the description of the male?
I can't see that far down, but people are literally hitting the concrete.
All right. What's your room number, sir?
I am 62. Hold on a minute. 62. Oh, I'm going in my room right now. 6281.
81. And what's the phone number for you? And first name and last name for you?
Scott.
Can you spell your last name, Scott? All right, thank you so much, sir. We'll have an officer out there. We do have an active shooter, so we just stay shelter in place.
I know, that's the only reason why I call. I saw people run into the shooter sign is.
If you see anybody suspicious inside the hallways or hear anything in your room, you give us a call back on 911, okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you so much.
At the bridge, right across from the... All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I think he's talking about this bridge. I thought first he said the Aries sign, but I guess he meant the Aria sign. And there's a bridge right here, which, I mean, the guys... Okay, so is this an Aria?
That's near the new convention center, yeah?
Yeah.
And there's several 911 calls talking about shooters on bridge and panic on bridge during that same time frame. Keeping in mind this is 11:19.
So, I mean, that's difficult to imagine someone making that mistake of thinking that they're seeing someone on the bridge here versus at the Mandalay Bay, which we're going to now fly there. It's quite a distance away.
It's well over, what, a mile and a half, something like that?
I think it would take you a solid 30 minutes to do that walk, Aria to Mandalay Bay.
Oh, without a doubt, right. And depending upon traffic, it's going to take you a while to get there via car.
Yeah, might be faster to walk. Take an Uber.
Yeah. Sure. There's not too many buildings between Mandalay Bay and the Orion Hotel. I mean, I'm sorry to laugh at this. This is just...
Well, it's absurd. You're laughing at the absurdity of it, obviously.
And this guy's 62 floors up. Was not quite 62, but he's high up. He's not worried about getting shot, and he's not panicked. He's just reporting what he's seeing.
Right.
Who am I to call him a liar? It seems like an odd thing to lie about.
Right.
You guys find it odd, though, that, I mean, have we heard either one of the 911 operators, and I get it, they're trained to be calm, and rightfully so, but, like, we're sending, we've got police en route, we're sending, law enforcement to that area now. Thank you for calling me.
The overall theme of those, they respond with, we have police in the area, we're addressing calls as quick as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling the callers we have multiple reports up and down the strip.
Right.
We're doing the best we can, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody's, I mean, I can't imagine any, I don't know, it was chaos and mayhem. So it's not like I'm not giving, and I'm not giving them grief by any stretch. I don't want it to sound that way. There were quite a few heroes that worked for the city of Las Vegas that night. Don't get me wrong, but I just, maybe I need to understand more that, even the operators, even the dispatchers were.
Well, it's exactly 1 mile from the Mandalay Bay to the Aria Resort.
Wow.
FYI, exactly 1 mile.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a distance. I'm not really, I don't know guns. What's the range of a rifle? Can it shoot 1 mile?
Well, yeah, in the right conditions, but this is over an hour after the official narrative tells you that no rounds were fired.
It's very bizarre, isn't it?
Yes.
Very much so.
So let's move to our next call.
Sure. Okay, we can go to call. Let's see. I'm gonna do them chronologically. We can go back to the Aria here. Do number 731. Just another totally panicked guy calling 911 saying he heard shots.
Sunday, October 1, 2017, 23:25 and 16 seconds.
911 emergency, Lariano 7485. Do you need police, fire, or medical?
Yeah, I'm at Aria Hotel in Vegas, and there was a gunshot, and I'm hiding behind a desk and just wondering what I should do.
Okay, we've got calls in that area. Let me see. Where currently on the property are you? Behind what desk?
I'm behind the check-in desk.
Check-in desk? Are you an employee or are you a guest there?
I'm a civilian, just a guest.
Gotcha. Okay, let me see what I've got here. One moment.
And nobody's really talking or communicating or telling us what to do.
All right. We've got calls. We don't know if it's a justified call or not, but they're kind of spread out a little bit. For right now, we've got no confirmed actual shooter call, though it's suspicious enough for us to go.
No, there was a gunshot at the Aria on the gaming floor behind the blackjack area.
Okay. How many shots did you hear, sir?
One shot.
How's that for
Okay. Do you know if anybody was actually injured or not? Or
no, I don't. Everybody took off running when they heard it and scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're all behind the check-in desk hiding.
Okay. Right now you're in a good location. Now, are there any employees with you?
No.
Okay. Not a problem. Let me see if I got an update on this other one. One moment. Okay, it looks like this just pretty much just came in not that long ago, so information's coming as we get it. We don't know exactly where, this person may or may not be right now, though.
I think that's the end of that.
And there's a whole bunch of 911 calls that just end right in the middle when you wish they wouldn't. And that's curious. But the reason I pointed that one out, the gentleman's
he's talking about a shooter on the gaming floor inside the hotel.
And very specific at where he was. That's an odd thing to make up right there. And plus this is 6 minutes after we just heard the, excuse my language, batshit crazy guy on the bridge. So that points out that they're clustered. When one call come in, they all came in from the same general area.
Right. People might recall this video where Quinn Michaels and I went to the Aria Hotel. There is virtually no way you could mistake a shot coming from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay as somehow coming from inside here. There are multiple layers of glass doors that insulate you from the outside, I presume to keep the Las Vegas heat out, and also just as a decorative element of the hotel. There are different areas and everything, so those would baffle the sound, and I just don't see how it could be explained away as somebody, you know, maybe hearing a shot outside and presuming that it might be inside. That is totally bizarre, and again, something we haven't really heard any investigation about. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that, you know, Laura Loomer and I went to see the coroner, John Fuddenberg, and Mr. Fuddenberg was not exactly forthcoming. He didn't offer to speak to us on camera. He did speak to us, which was rather surprising, but he, in my estimation, was a confident liar. I did not get a good sense from him that he was being honest with us, and that's just my personal judgment based on looking in the man's eyes as he spoke to me. But of course, we've learned from Dr. Thomas Rudd, Joe, and you've been on some of those calls with Dr. Rudd, and Paladin and all that, that the coroner is the highest law enforcement official in the county, and what he determines about the cause of death dictates quite a bit about how an investigation will be conducted. Now, Laura had come to me with a bit of information that she had gotten from a contact of hers, saying that not all of the 58 victims had received autopsies or proper autopsies, something to that effect. And Laura and I were just right here outside the coroner's office doing a bit of reporting, and this was a live stream, and look who pops right out the door. It's John Fuddenberg. So seems quite clear that they're monitoring our activity in terms of trying to get to the bottom of this. And again, Mr. Fuddenberg didn't invite us to a press conference, didn't speak openly on camera, where the thousands of people, the 24,075 people who have viewed this video, would have had an opportunity to gauge his body language and to either confirm or deny the feeling that I had that Mr. Fuddenberg wasn't being entirely forthcoming. I feel he specifically did not want to give people that opportunity, but wanted to send a message to us that the autopsies had in fact been performed. Now, Joe, you were on a very extensive call with Paladin where he went over, oh sorry, no, that might have been Paladin with Dr. Rudd, and then there was a separate call with you and Paladin, right?
Right, yeah.
Right.
It was I think it was probably a couple hours, maybe almost 3.
Yes.
I think some people called it an interrogation. I didn't feel like it was. I thought it was a great phone call. It was probably one of the more, I would say, emotional phone calls, because we got pretty deep into a lot of stuff in terms of the concert that night. So, yeah, I don't know what, and I think, we learned as a result of the coroner and the coroner shutting down for weeks, and who this coroner was, and some of them aren't law enforcement, some of them aren't doctors, some of them are, and I think we learned that 1 in 5 throughout the United States didn't pass their forensic pathology part of their exam, but they're still coroners and they're still performing autopsies.
It's amazing, Joe. I don't think people know enough about what goes on in the medical examiner's office and who these coroners are. We were speaking earlier today with Larry Nichols about the former coroner in Arkansas. I think his name is like Fahmy Malik, who judged decapitations and multiple bullet wounds to the head as suicides, effectively terminating any homicide investigation. And of course, you've spoken with Craig Malik.
Craig Malik, sure.
Who's not related, but coincidentally was involved in the autopsy of Ron Brown, Bill Clinton's Commerce Secretary, and Barrington Wisenet.
That's right.
So it's strange how these coroners all seem to be floating around these mysterious deaths. Mr. Burgandy, why don't we listen to the final call that you've prepared for us here?
Sure. Next we'll go, you did bring up something that I need to go back and trace, see how many calls of the 77 that heard shots were inside and how many were outside. I can tell you a majority were inside.
That's crazy.
I just happened to find ones that were outside that were more relevant today, but most of them are inside. So anyway.
And excuse me for a minute, because you've just jogged my memory as to why I brought up the coroner. I've speculated that these 58 deaths with questionable autopsies that other pathologists and other investigators have said exhibit a lot of anomalies, this could be a way of laundering dead bodies. You know, you shoot into a crowd and, you know, we don't know how many people were shot or how many people were injured. Quite frankly, to me, the number 58 or 500, Joe, did we determine how many people? I think HDR CFX Cornwall did a computer simulation that determined how many people were in that venue. Was it 6,000?
I believe so, yeah. So, you know, rumor had it there were 22,000, but
it's too many.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know, and I will say there was probably a few thousand in front of the stage on that green turf that went all the way back to where we were standing, but 22,000 is a lot of people.
Yeah, it was much more than 6,000, but it wasn't 22.
Right,
I
but
have it estimated at about 13 to 14,000.
And it
I've
seems
done
to
the
me
same
that
analysis on it.
spraying the crowd with automatic gunfire, I mean, no disrespect to any of the victims, but 58 dead seems frankly like a low number to me.
Right.
So
after seeing all the new body cam releases, I'm thoroughly convinced most of the initial victims happened in the first initial 2 or 3 volleys when they were still more tightly packed. Because if you watch the videos recorded inside the venue, they stayed pretty packed and down for the first 2 volleys, and then they started getting up and going. And the body cams show him spraying cop cars, spraying here, spraying there, and that's after they had dispersed a little bit. So I think most of those came in the first few volleys, and he was just randomly spraying after that.
Okay, let's give a listen to call 905, shall we?
Sure.
Sunday, October 1, 2017, 23:50 and 02 seconds.
911 emergency, Luca, 4803.
There seems to be a shooter on the corner of Las Vegas and Harmon right now.
What's he look like?
He's running across the bridge. People are running across the bridge.
Okay, which way is he running?
No, everyone's running across the bridge, headed south.
Okay, where you said there's a shooter there. Do you see him?
No. Everyone was running out, and you could hear the shot.
Okay, how many minutes or seconds ago?
No, right now. Like right now.
Okay, right now.
I'm literally here under the bridge. I'm literally under the bridge. But people,
Go ahead.
So people are running back, though. I don't understand.
Okay, so you were running which direction across which bridge, sir?
They're running south and down north. They're coming down the steps and running down north.
Okay.
I've already moved.
Isn't it Hard Rock?
Okay, where are you now? Is there any place you could just shelter?
No, I'm in the car.
So yeah, that cut off. I guess he's talking about this bridge on Las Vegas. It's that's the monorail, I believe.
Right.
So we've got people on there. I mean, that's not intended for pedestrians. That's a monorail track.
Right. So something scared them.
Well, I mean, if you've got people on there, if you were doing a paramilitary attack, you might have some plan to, put.
Yeah, if it's shut down and there's no monorail going, I mean, I'm sure you're able to walk on it, right?
Now, keep in mind, this is a full hour and a half after the last shot was heard at the venue.
Right. So what I'm getting at is, what if the shooter or shooters in the Mandalay Bay on the 32nd floor is a distraction? We've heard many times that the 6th floor of the book depository in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963, was a distraction to fire shots and have everybody look up and behind John F. Kennedy's motorcade while shots came from the Daltex building, from a picket fence behind the grassy knoll, etc. And we've heard today from Larry Nichols how, misdirection is the key to any deception. He referred to prestidigitation, magic, illusion, sleight of hand, something Las Vegas is known well for.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if we've answered any questions tonight, gentlemen, but we're certainly asking more questions, and the FBI and the police are certainly not answering them. So we're going to continue doing this as more information becomes available. Was there anything, Joe or Mr. Burgandy, that you guys wanted to share with us before we wrap it up for the evening? I know it's getting late on the East Coast here.
I wanted to, Mr. Burgandy, if you want to go first, if you have anything to add, I wanted to add something real quick before we...
Yeah, I would like to add one thing out there.
Sure.
There's a website out there that I've known this guy from the beginning, and he has put as many hours into this as I have. He's an unknown. He doesn't make videos, but he's created a website that if you want to study anything about Las Vegas shooting, you need to go here. The website is called 10/1/2007.com. It's TENONE2017.com. You'll find it's the most extensive collection of Las Vegas material. All the videos, all the links, all the scanners, all the 911 calls. You don't have to go anywhere else but right there and get everything you need. He updates it regularly. He's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. When I get something, I send it to him. It goes on the website. He does it all, and it's totally free. He does it on his own dime. He just feels as passionately about this as I do, and he just doesn't make videos. So I would ask that people go check that website out because it's a really informative site.
It looks like it. Thank you, Mr. Burgandy.
And Joe, final thoughts?
So this past weekend, I met a friend of a friend. I was at a friend's house barbecue, and met a friend of a friend who I'd never met before. I met her and her husband, and they were at the concert that night. They were actually on the left side of the stage. Didn't get shot, thank God, but others did around them. During our conversation, we were talking about what we're talking about now, and what do we think, and talking about Paddock, and running throughout the venue and so forth. And she just kind of stopped during our conversation. She said, I felt like the bullets were coming from the sky or coming from above. Now, again, she doesn't know me. I've never met her. I've asked her if she's seen any videos on YouTube as it relates to the shooting in Vegas. She said, no, I don't want to, for obvious reasons. But she was very clear and adamant about where she felt the ammunition was coming from.
And did you ask her, Joe, if she felt that that was beyond the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay? She said the sky. Are you implying that it supports some of the video footage and some of the other testimony we've heard from reporters and YouTubers about helicopters being involved?
I asked her about that. She said, I don't know if it was coming from helicopters. She says she doesn't remember hearing helicopters. I don't remember hearing helicopters. I shared that with her as well. But again, when she mentioned that, that was the first thing that came to mind. I unfortunately didn't ask her about how high she think they were coming from in terms of the Mandalay Bay in relation to the Mandalay Bay. But, I figured two sets of people being at the same concert hadn't met each other until this past Sunday. And she offers that up without any information leading up to that would lead her to say something like that, other than strictly how she felt. So I thought that was very telling.
Indeed. The lack of investigation is really, really troubling. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for joining me tonight. I want to remind people that if they are looking for a job and they are a highly skilled IT professional, or if you own a business and you're looking for some executive placement, you can get in touch with Joe Napoli. Joe, what's the best way for people to reach you other than finding you on Twitter at JoeNapoli7?
So you can reach me via email, joe@launchpath, LAUNCHPATHES, launchpathexecutivesearch.com, or like I said, or like you said, on Twitter. The best way to reach me.
And of course, Joe has also started a Patreon account. If people want to support Joe, you can go to patreon.com/JoeNapoli7. And Joe needs our support on there. He's got some videos there about his interest in the Navy and various other things. And I do want to remind everyone that Crowdsource the Truth is a community-sponsored news resource, and we look forward to your sponsorship on Patreon as well. Quinn Michaels and I have recently begun offering unique Patreon.
I don't know if people can hear you. I hope people can hear you. Don't call me now.
Sorry, that's very loud. But we've been offering some Patreon-only content for our sponsors there on Patreon. This stream from just the other day, I was in the airport after the Plum City plunge where I was with Field McConnell, and Quinn and I are exploring various stories and details of things that are difficult for us to cover here on YouTube because we've been, as Joe has described, the victims of malicious strikes and people who would rather lash out against Crowdsource the Truth than allow the truth to be heard. So I hope that people will go to patreon.com/crowdsource the truth and become a monthly sponsor, even $1, $5 a month. Don't want anybody to be put under any kind of financial burden, but by distributing the sponsorship over a large number of people, we eliminate this control that large corporations have over the news. We could eliminate MGM Grand's ability to clamp down. MGM Grand does not sponsor Crowdsource the Truth, so nobody has to worry about them telling me to not go with Joe Napoli to the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. And they don't have to worry about us reporting on gunshots happening all over the Las Vegas Strip. It's a truly shocking situation. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for joining me tonight. Look forward to future reports as they become available. Joe Napoli, Mr. Burgandy, thank you guys so much. Thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see everybody tomorrow.